have them be in room 208 on the second floor between sessions for rehearsal. Now I'd like to call on Bob Flanagan to tell us about Pathfinders 2.
On behalf of the Long Range Planning Coordinating Committee, I'd like to invite you all and formally urge you to come to Pathfinders 2, which will be next Saturday here at MUF from 9 to 4. In 1994, we came together as a community, reached consensus, and started to make intentional choices about the direction we want the fellowship to go. And the benefits from that Pathfinders Day and the hard work of the 5 task force has been of tremendous value and benefit to the fellowship. And we need to continue that momentum into the future to chart where we want our fellowship to go. This is the best forum we've found to get grassroots input and goal setting for a group of this size and diversity of the community. Again, in order for us to plan properly and in order to correct the lunches, I very much encourage you to sign up on the sheet that's outside of Paul's office. It's going to be a $5 charge for lunch, $2.50 for children, and we'll be asking for donations to defray the cost for our coordinator, Charles Hortman, of the Fitchburg UU Church, who has been trained by Bob Carney, who led the first Pathfinders Day. Last year we had a great turnout and had some fun in the process of coming to consensus. So if you've got a thought, an idea, or even better, a dream of how you want the fellowship to go in the next year and into the future, please come and share. Last year we proved that it can happen, so hope to see you all next Saturday here at the fellowship at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
And speaking of last year's task forces, the Spirituality Task Force will be holding open houses to discuss their findings during the month of April, and I direct your attention to a flyer, a yellow flyer, on the back of Nick's page in your program this morning. And finally, Bob Scott has an announcement about our pledge event.
There is never a last day for pledging or giving money. But the 1995-96 pledge campaign has officially begun. Over the next few weeks, we will be receiving mail, phone calls, visits from fellow friends and members of the fellowship asking you to consider your financial gift so that we can go about our business during the next year. The board has proposed a budget that increases spending by 15%. I urge you to look at it ahead of the budget meeting in May. I urge you to consider how you can help us meet that goal. There will be some of you who will be able to help us by raising your pledge by 15% or more. There will be those of you who, because of circumstances, may not be able to reach that goal. Those of us who can step up to the plate should, and my wife and co-chair Irene and I are increasing our pledge by 20% because we know there will be those who will not be able to raise the budget. There's those of you who can step up, stretch a bit to do so. There will be information in the Great Hall during the next few Sundays, copies of the budget, fact sheet, pledging information. I urge you to drop by or to give me a call, or my wife Irene, or to talk to any members of the board about the budget. And then I urge you to come on Saturday, April 22nd to celebrate our efforts at the pledge event. Thank you.
It is my pleasure this morning to spend a few minutes sharing with you some thoughts about my involvement in the program committee and what that has meant in my fellowship life. For me, our long tradition of shared leadership, of partnership between the minister and the congregation, is the essence of who we are as a religious community. And our shared responsibility for creating meaningful Sunday morning experiences is at the heart of that partnership. The members of the program committee and others who help to create Sunday programs take turns playing a variety of roles: leader, participant, priestess, facilitator, reader, writer, singer, composer, teller of personal stories, listener, editor. I've taken a turn at all these roles over the years, and the experience has fed my spirit. I felt encouraged and empowered to try things that were a stretch for me, to grow into new and more challenging tasks. I've used my involvement in program creation to deepen my understanding of myself, my chosen faith, and my world. I've been able to strengthen my personal connections with others who are part of this community and to develop a stronger sense of my place in this fellowship family. And by being a part of the program committee, I've been able to pass on some of these gifts to others as they began to participate in and create Sunday programs. So many of my connections with people here have grown out of creating programs together. Whenever I encounter any of them, in person or in memory, those experiences we shared are a large part of what I think about. I think of Mary Hill's vision of creating a program about those people who nurtured us spiritually as children. I think of Stu Sendel's childhood summers on his aunt and uncle's farm. I think of Buddy Frank's governess in Savannah and of his admiration for FDR, who, like Buddy, had to overcome a physical disability. I think of Jerry Silk dancing the role of a medieval witch midwife. I think of Vernon Glickman sounding low foghorn notes on his French horn when we performed parts of a very huge romantic choral work with an orchestra of 5 and a chorus of 12. I think of Bill Cox reading of Walt Whitman's poem about coming to terms with his sexual orientation. I think of Janet Williams and her son Jeff lighting Kwanzaa candles, and of Martin Eckstein sharing his experience of Christmas as a Jewish child in pre-war Germany. Some of these folks, and many others that I can't take time to mention now, told me afterwards that their participation in these programs made some difference in their lives. For me, sharing these experiences with them deepened my personal connections and also gave me a sense of participating in the universal human experience. And for me, that's what being a part of Sunday morning programming is all about. Thank you.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Barbara Pecca. I've been a member here at the fellowship for about 17 years. It's hard to believe. Today, all across the United States, UU churches and fellowships are lighting the flaming chariot
This morning I light this chalice for the flowers. May their wonder and beauty be always in our hearts. I think I like that.
Will our first and second graders come join me on the middle stack here? And teachers, you may stand off to the side. Clark?
It is not easy growing up. Sometimes we feel confused and don't feel like ourselves. We look in the mirror, we are getting taller. Our teeth are falling out, and we're not sure the new ones will fit. If and when they ever do come.
Sometimes we feel like great people. After all, we are in school all day. It scares us when we miss our moms and dads. I thought I was getting bigger, we think to ourselves in disappointment.
Friends are lots of fun, but sometimes they are a real pain in the neck. They like you one minute and try to walk you around the neck. Mom and Dad say, do your best, but I just can't get from that. And reading aloud makes me feel embarrassed.
My writing gets too big at times and fills the page with only 2 words, or I forget to spell a word I learned just yesterday. Will I ever remember my library book on library day and my sneakers on the day we have gifts? It's not easy growing up.
If only I was the president, or a famous athlete, or a rock star, or a fire or police person, or a ballerina. But if you were to ask me, seriously, I can't think of anyone I'd rather be than me.
Children will help us reflect on how they have gotten to where they are today. As they share with us their meditation called, What's Going On Here?
The sun, the rain. What's going on here? What season are we enjoying? What do you see happening every day to the trees and the earth and the animals? Where do all the pretty flowers come from? Let's pretend for a few minutes that you are a tiny seed. You have been sleeping all winter. The warm sun has finally melted all the snow away, and you begin to feel it warming your back. How does that make you feel? The gentle rains are here. They wash over you and you feel refreshed. Every day the sun and the rain take turns, and you begin to stir. How do you feel, little seeds? What do you begin to do very slowly? More sun and more rain come over you. Break through the earth, little seeds. Reach to the sun, little seeds. Reach to the sun and grow. Uncurl your leaves, little seedlings. Show your buds of a flower. Your lovely flower faces the sun. How proud you stand, young friend. How beautiful you are.
toes, hair on my head, a red, red rose. Everything grows, anyone knows, that's how it goes. Yes, everything grows and grows. Babies do, animals do, everything grows. Everything grows and grows. Sisters do, brothers do, everything grows. Food on the farm, fish in the sea, birds in the air, leaves on the tree. Everything grows, anyone knows, that's how it goes. Yes, everything grows and grows. Babies that's how it goes. Under the sun, that's how it goes. Under the rain, everything grows. Anyone knows, that's how it goes. Yes, everything grows and grows. Babies do, animals do, everything grows. Everything grows and grows. Sisters do, brothers do, everything grows. Mamas do and papas do, everything grows.
Community needs to share. This morning, we are going to
awful. I know. I don't know how to combat it.
Well, I opened the door, now this is covered, but otherwise everybody's going to either be sick or fall asleep.
I know.
It's terrible.
And it's particularly bad when the place is packed, for a concert.
And that's what it was today. And that and the people and the flowers and the heat, the combination.
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah. Hey, Andy, how are you? It's nice to see you.
It's good to see you. How you been?
Oh, pretty good. Thanks.
Good morning. I would like to welcome all of you, especially guests, visitors, and newcomers, to the Morristown Unitarian Fellowship. My name is Barbara Stasiak. I urge newcomers who haven't already done so to stop at the welcome table in the Great Hall and fill out a card so you can receive our bi-monthly newsletter. Also, please join us for tea or coffee after the program, and take some time to browse at the book table, which is in the library on your left as you leave the meeting room. Newcomers this year are wearing peach or white name tags, and I urge everyone to make sure that you seek those new folks out and make them feel welcome. The responsibility for Sunday morning programs alternates between the minister and the program committee. Our lay-led programs are a vital and unique part of our Sundays, in which everyone is urged to both share and to participate. And we welcome all comments and suggestions about programs. Please check your bi-monthly newsletters for write-ups about the upcoming programs, and come back often. Although we don't pass the plate here, we do rely on pledges and donations to support our programs. Your contributions are welcome, and you can place them in the beautiful wooden pedestal, which you'll find in the hallway as you leave the meeting room. We have some special announcements. First of all, a reminder that the Neighborhood Units Picnic on May 14th is in the planning stages, and you can sign up for that at the Great Hall, at a table in the Great Hall. The cost is $5 per family, $5 per person, $10 per family, and you can find out details about that outside. Today is also the last day for reduced rates for the Earth Day teach-in on April 15th, so you can sign up for that or find out more information, again, out in the Great Hall at a table with a green tablecloth cover. Tickets are also on sale today for the Nick Page Power Sing, which is next Sunday afternoon. You need to buy tickets in advance, either this Sunday or next Sunday, if you want to be assured that you'll have a pizza dinner along with the event. The children's chorus rehearses between sessions, and they are preparing for the Earth Day program on April 23rd, and if you have children who might want to be involved in that, they should be go up to that room next week between sessions. Then we have an announcement from Bob Flanagan.
Thank you, Barbara. My name is Bob Flanagan. The mayor and I co-chair the Long Range Planning Coordinating Committee, and we would like to invite everyone here to come with us and join Pathfinder's Day 2 this Saturday here at the Fellowship between 9 and 4. Last year we came together as a community to develop consensus and started making intentional choices about where we want the Fellowship to go this year and into the future. The benefits that we gained from that day and the hard work of all the task forces has brought real value and benefit to the Fellowship. And we need to continue that momentum into the future. This is the best forum that we've been able to find to bring this grassroots input and goal setting for a group of this size and diversity of community. But in order for us to plan properly and know how much to order for the lunches that will be provided, we would appreciate if you could sign up on the sign-up sheet that's on the door of Paul's office.
Thanks, Bob. And speaking of Pathfinders Day, one of last year's task forces, the Spirituality Task Force, will be holding 2 open house events during the month of April on the 9th and the 23rd. And I direct you to look later in your handouts on a yellow sheet, the back of Nick page, for the details of that event. We invite you all to be with us to talk about the findings and recommendations of the Spirituality Task Force. And finally, Bob Scott.
To get to that future, we need to take the present. The 1995-96 pledge campaign has begun. Over the next few weeks, you will receive letters, calls, visits from canvassers who are friends and members of the fellowship asking you for your gift and your pledge for the next fiscal year, which starts July 1. The board has proposed a budget to raise 15% more pledge income than we did last year. I urge you to think about the budget, read literature that we have, come to the budget meeting in May, talk to board members, friends, canvassers, give myself or my co-chairwoman, my wife, a call, and then make your pledge. Some of you will be able to stretch, and we hope you will give more than the nominal and the 15% increase in the budget. As a symbol of our commitment, Irene and I are raising our pledge by 20%. And we ask those of you who are capable of doing that to stretch, because there will be people who, because of circumstances, will not be able to stretch. And finally, come to the pledge event on April 22nd. You don't have to bring your textbook. You don't have to come and pledge. You just come and have a good time and celebrate our contribution to the fellowship.
It's my pleasure this morning to speak a few minutes with you, to share some thoughts about my involvement with the program committee and what that has meant for my fellowship life. For me, our long tradition of shared leadership, of partnership between the minister and the congregation, is the essence of who we are as a religious community. And our shared responsibility for creating meaningful experiences on Sunday mornings is at the heart of that partnership. The members of the program committee and others who help to create Sunday programs take turns playing a variety of roles: leader, participant, priestess, facilitator, reader, writer, singer, composer, teller of personal stories, listener, editor. I've taken a turn at all of these roles over the years, and the experiences have fed my spirit. I've felt encouraged and empowered to try things that were a stretch for me, to grow into new and more challenging tasks. I've used my involvement in program creation to deepen my understanding of myself, my chosen faith, and my world. I've been able to strengthen my personal connections with others who are a part of this community, and to develop a stronger sense of my place in the fellowship family. And by being a part of the program committee, I've been able to pass on some of these gifts to others as they began to participate in and create Sunday programs. So many of my connections with people here have grown out of creating programs together. Whenever I encounter any of them, in person or in memory, those experiences we shared are a large part of what I think about. I think of Mary Hill's vision in creating a program about the people who nurtured us spiritually in our childhoods. I think of Stu Sendel's childhood summers on his aunt and uncle's farm. I think of Buddy Frank's governess in Savannah, and of his admiration for FDR, who, like Buddy, had to overcome a physical disability. I think of Jerry Silk dancing the role of a medieval witch midwife, and of Cammie, who danced around a cauldron in that same program. I think of Vernon Glickman sounding low foghorn notes on his French horn when we performed parts of a huge romantic choral work with an orchestra of 5 and a chorus of 12. I think of Bill Cox reading a Walt Whitman poem about coming to terms with his sexual orientation. I think of Janet Williams and her son Jeff lighting Kwanzaa candles, and of Martin Eckstein sharing his experiences of a childhood Christmas in Germany, pre-war Germany, as a Jewish child. Some of these folks, and many others that I can't take time to tell you about now, told me afterwards that their participation in these programs made some difference in their lives. For me, sharing these experiences with them made for a deeper personal connection and also gave me a sense of participating in the universal human experience. And for me, that's what involvement in Sunday programming is all about. Thanks.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Barbara Pecca. Been a member of the fellowship for about 17 years. Today, all over the United States and elsewhere, UU churches and fellowships are lighting the flaming chalice as a signal of our time to come together to worship. We don't have very many rituals in common, but the flaming chalice is fast becoming the recognized symbol of our faith. Many of you may not know that the design was created by an Austrian artist named Hans Deutsch in 1941. He lived in Paris during the 30s, drawing political cartoons of Hitler. He eventually fled the Nazis when they invaded and ended up in Portugal, where he met Charles Joy, who was a Unitarian minister and was executive director of the Unitarian Service Committee, a precursor of today's Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. The USC had recently been founded to assist Eastern Europeans escaping Nazi persecution. Deutsch eventually came to work for Reverend Joy, and he later wrote to him and said the following: "There is something that urges me to tell you how much I admire your utter self-denial and readiness to serve, to sacrifice all, your time, your health, your well-being, to help, help, help. I am not what you may actually call a believer, but if your kind of life is the profession of your faith, as it is, I feel sure, then religion, ceasing to be magic and mysticism, becomes confession to practical philosophy, and what is more, to active, really useful social work. And this religion, with or without a heading, is one to which even a godless fellow like myself can say wholeheartedly yes." When Deutsch was asked to create a symbol for the USC in order to make its papers and documents look more official, he created the chalice with a flame, a beacon of hope. It was eventually adopted by the UUA as a symbol of the movement as a whole. This Sunday is UUSC Membership Sunday. The theme is creating a world community with justice for all. The UUSC is committed to working with local groups. It's had more than 50 years' experience working on behalf of human rights, justice, and freedom in Africa, Asia, Central America, Europe, the Caribbean, and the United States. Its work is based on the UU principles and values and operates with the belief that people working for economic and social justice in their local communities knows what's best for themselves. It doesn't send people in to develop projects. It goes where projects are already being started. It is not supported at all by any money from the UUA. It is strictly funded by membership from people like you and me. There's 17,000 members now, but there are only 28 families or individuals here in Morristown who belong to the UUSC, and I would like to increase that membership. In your program today, you were given an envelope, and there's also a brochure that talks about what the UUSC does. And there's a cover to our program today, which gives the theme of creating a world community with justice for all. I hope you will look at that and seriously consider becoming a member. If in fact you do become a member, you can place one of these stickers on your name tag and wear it proudly with a flaming chalice. I want to tell you a little bit about what they do here in the United States. There's a program called Promise the Children, which began back in 1989, and it's a 10-year commitment by the UUSC. They have more than 3,500 volunteers. And right here in New Jersey, we're just beginning a statewide network to become a strong advocate for children and families living with hunger and poverty. My involvement began about 12 years ago when a Central American study group formed. We've sponsored 9 concerts so far. It's always the last Saturday in January, so save the date for next year. Last year we earned over $4,000 for humanitarian causes in Central America. One of our UU principles states that we covenant to affirm and promote the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Please join the UUSC and put your faith into action.
Thank you, Barbara. Let us stand and sing "We Gather Together." Seated. This is a very full morning, but I do want to give us an occasion to share events which have happened in our lives, which have brought us joy or sadness that we want our larger congregation to know of. So I invite any of those sharings at this time. Yes, John.
I want to share with our friends the 50th anniversary of marriage of Polly and myself.
Is there cake left? All right. So during coffee, we'll have some cake in honor of the Nankiaville's 50th anniversary. But
May I add to that? I just came back from Arizona Thursday. We've been out taking Peter out to see his sister at the beginning of the month because she was out here expecting the baby in mid-April, and it came the Irish patty that the mail Daniel, John Daniel, we got the little grandpa.
Oh, great.
Calling Dad.
Great. Welcome. Bob?
I'd like to share with you something I learned about this week. Many of you, actually about 50 people in the
coordinated by Lee Wynn and myself, has been an active participant as a support church in a program that involves about 40 churches in the Monroe County area to provide temporary shelter for homeless families. And I've been very pleased to say that we've had one of the larger volunteer groups of all the churches that have participated. The Interfaith Council of Homeless Families in New Jersey was selected as one of 12 recipients for a governance award this year for that particular program. I think it's really to all understand how important that is to getting a statewide recognition. I don't believe there's any money associated with it. It should help us raise our credibility and stature among some of the participating churches. And for all the note, we've been a very active participant, and especially proud of our participation in our program.
Oh, that's a great honor, Bob. Thanks. Gisela.
This year I was freed up in my job at a high school in North where I work with students classified as learning disabilities. I was freed up to be the transition coordinator, and I tell you I was blessed to be working on the cutting edge of social action, helping to transition the kids into the workplace. And I'm focusing on seniors who are graduating in June and then hopefully they will continue on with the job. And it's so hard finding every single job, and I got one of them started as a busboy at a restaurant where Marty and I go all the time. And some of the staff at the school said to me, how could you put some effort into a loser like that? And I knew otherwise about this kid and what he had done at home to care for his young brothers, with a sick mom, and so on. And yesterday, I went by at the end of his training day, and there he was in Marty's shirt with Marty's black socks on, and pants I had gotten from one of the teachers, and he was shining. I never saw him in the 4 years I've known him, just glowing. And his hand, I gave him a lift at the bus stop. See, I did great. It was good. I'm like, I can't wait to go back tomorrow to share it. I'm going to go and have dinner there tonight so you can see these things. And pure joy.
Yes, Jerry.
I had a wonderful experience on Friday night. I went to the 40th anniversary of the founding of Temple B'nai, which is the Reformed synagogue over on James Street, where my family has been on and off for years when they're not here. And Paul was one of the speakers there, and he was very eloquent. He, in particular, talked about the whole Morristown community, and Ebony and Ivory was singing in G mode, and many magical things happened. And for me, it was like coming together of my two worlds. I don't feel so split anymore, so if you see me, I will no longer have those two personalities.
How many will you have now, Jerry?
Those two are gone.
Oh, Tammy.
I appreciate support and prayer, and yesterday morning my grandfather went to the emergency room. He had a stroke, and so I've been with him all night and this morning, and I've been here just for a little support, and then I'll be leaving here and going and visiting. My grandmother, his wife, recently died around Thanksgiving, and his birthday's coming up, April 5th, and I feel like it's time for him to join her, so that might be what's going on. But I just need some support.
Thank you, Tammy. Let's take a moment to be quiet together in meditation and prayer, savoring these joys and remembering Cammie in our hearts and her family, remembering that there are other sources of pain which may be unexpressed but are present in our community, and also remembering our larger world and its joys and sorrows as well. Let us be quiet together. May we find peace in our hearts. And let us sing, There Is More Love Somewhere. Would you stand and sing? Well, can you remember what it was like when you were 6 or 7 years old? Did you, looking into the faces of our children here on the steps, bring back some of the feeling of that time, of being in first and second grade? You remember some of that sense of the excitement of leaving your house for the first time to go to school and to go into being with other children in a foreign setting, and some of the fear that that brought with it, the anxiousness to be home again in those protecting arms and that warm house, and then to venture forth. What a time this is. And we each carry within us that child to this day. It's in the spirit of thinking what kind of world we want for these, our children, that I want to talk today about the role of men in our children's lives. Now, I know that raising a discussion about men is raising a tender subject. We are Unitarian Universalists. Because of that, we're committed to the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and so we've been very responsive to the questions raised by the women's movement, asking us to look deeply at the patterns of our culture and our society, to rid ourselves of those patterns that keep women suppressed or out of participating fully in society. So we've been going through a time of deep examination and reflection about gender roles and what do we expect from men and what do we expect from women. We've welcomed the breaking of old patterns, and we acclaim the entry of women into roles that traditionally have been male roles. I assume that most of us were very, very satisfied when we saw that the judge who ruled on the baseball strike was a woman. And not only that, she was a fan of baseball. But all this change does bring some confusion with it, some uncertainty for both women and men. And today I want to focus on men in this time. We see the consequences of change in the presence of many angry white men. We're told that it was the vote of angry white men that accounted for the dramatic political shift which led to the sweeping of Congress and the introduction of various, what I consider mean-spirited policies to kind of restrict our social compassion. I understand that the radio is full of the voices of angry white men. Now, when I hear that somebody's mad, I try to remember to ask the question, what's underneath that anger? You see, usually anger emerges because of some underlying feeling, which is often fear or the threat, the feeling that something precious is going to be hurt or taken away from one. Usually anger results in this way. There are some people who enjoy anger just for its sake. I mean, there are some people who go to hockey games just to get angry. They love the fights, or they want the benches to clear so there can be a brawl. And they're anger junkies, if you will. They feel, I'm alive, I'm mad, you know. But I think most people, when they get angry, it's because they're concerned, they're worried that something that's precious to them is going to be hurt or is going to be taken away. The classic illustration of this is a parent whose child is lost in a crowded store, and the parent is searching frantically through the store to find their child. And finally, they find the child hiding in this clothing rack, and they say to the child, "Where the hell have you been? You trying to give me a heart attack?" It's the anger that covers over that underlying fear that has been present in the child's absence. So when I see and hear of the anger of men in our culture today, I suspect that there's a feeling underneath that, a feeling of being threatened, a feeling of being afraid. And I think that threat takes place at several levels, and it includes a spiritual level to it as well. Last Wednesday night, I was on a panel at the Bergen Ethical Culture Society to talk about how our social institutions can welcome gays and lesbians. And I was talking about how our congregation, as a religious community, has gone through a process of welcoming the participation of gays and lesbians. On the panel was a gay police officer who serves at Rutgers University, and he regularly lectures new recruits as well as established officers in in-service training workshops. And he lectures about prejudice and discrimination against gays and lesbians. He told a very moving story about the cost of prejudice. He said that when there was a time when Jeffrey Dahmer, you remember Dahmer, the man who killed more than a dozen young men, there was a time when the officers in the Milwaukee police force were called to his house because there was a report of a disturbance. When the officers got to the house, they saw a 14-year-old Vietnamese boy naked in the lawn, crying and calling out for help. And the officers dismissed it as a faggot love affair gone sour. And this, Brian said, that is the price of prejudice, that Vietnamese boy lost his life and then an additional 7 others. And had those officers been trained to overcome their prejudice, they would have intervened and perhaps saved at least 7 lives. A powerful story. So Brian was asked by someone in the audience, when you tell this story and talk with police officers about prejudice, what is their response? And Brian said, well, the young officers, the new recruits, the men and women coming into the police force, are very responsive and very open to thinking and re-examining their attitudes that they've learned and opening their minds. And then someone said, what about the older officers, the people who've been on the force for 10 or 15 years, you know, the sergeants and lieutenants and captains? And Brian kind of smiled and he said, well, the dinosaurs, you know, you just have to kind of look past the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs. He was dismissing those who are stuck in their attitudes as dinosaurs. That word kind of stuck in my mind, dinosaurs. Is that perhaps what maybe some men in our culture are beginning to feel? That somehow they have become passed by. The times have passed them by. And their ways of understanding who they are in the world are becoming extinct and feel a little like dinosaurs, or certainly feel as if they're being accused of being dinosaurs. Think about it for a minute. It used to be that one of the primary sources of meaning for a mature male was to be a father. That's a way to identify one's reason for being alive, is to be a father. Yet, given the reproductive technologies of our day, given the widening concept of what a family is, it's possible for a woman to conceive through artificial insemination and to raise a child without a father present. And indeed, there are single women who now choose to raise children without a father under the household roof. Is a father necessary? Now, I grant you that it's very few women who are making this choice, but that possibility, that new possibility in our culture, I think, raises the anxiety level of many men. Is there still a role for me in this primary role as father? Now, that's a small number of women who choose not to have a male present in the raising of children. The far greater concern is not the women who choose to parent without a father, but the millions of separated and divorced single mother families where children are being raised by women alone. Not by choice, but because the fathers have disappeared. In the period soon after divorce, only 1/6 of all children see their fathers even once a week. And remember that divorce is now affecting more than 50% of the marriages. In the period after divorce, 1/6 see their children once a week. Close to a half of the children of divorce don't see their fathers at all, and after 10 years, more than 2/3 have no contact with their fathers. You see, with the increased amount of divorce, men have lost and men have chosen to abandon their traditional role as father. I contend that without that role, there's a loss to men's souls, because there's not that anchor point of identity and of social contribution that has been there traditionally. Men are threatened in their roles as fathers. They're also feeling threatened in their roles as providers. And this threat has at least two dimensions. First, there is the increased competition for jobs from women. As women get promoted through affirmative action, there are more women competing with men for fewer number of jobs. So there's a direct threat of competition for work. I think this is particularly true in middle management jobs, as the number of those jobs contract and competition increases. But in addition to that direct threat, there's the psychological, the spiritual, the psychic threat of if my role as a man is not to provide for families, now that women can be economically independent, thank you very much, what then becomes my role as a man? Who am I? Am I needed anymore in these relationships? And the last area of threat that I would point to is the threat to male power and privilege. As men see women moving into the highest levels of power in our society, and I grant you there's a long way for us to go to get to true equality, but as women come sit at those tables of power, enter those levels of power, men are fearing that they are becoming disempowered, and that raises the anxiety level. Men can no longer make the old assumptions, and out of that anxiety then comes fear, comes anger, which I see present around us so much today. It's no wonder there are angry white men whose voices are heard, whose votes are being taken, unsure about their power, unsure about their roles as father, as provider, other ways of relating with women. They express that fear through anger. Now we, in this religious community, are challenged to respond to these changes in our culture. We are challenged to respond to this anger that is in the culture by providing an alternative vision of what men can be and of what community can be. Our challenge as a religious community is to bring to the larger culture an understanding of men that shows men who can partner with women, men who can be strong and be compassionate, men who can bring structure and direction and authority, who can also be adaptive and flexible and responsive. We need to model a new way of being male, being female, and being in community. Is there still a role for men in our children's lives? Of course. When I read The Spirit of Community by the sociologist Amitai Etzioni, I was struck by some research that he reported on regarding children who were raised in families without a father figure. And I quote from his book, "Findings imply that the father's absence may have specific and long-range consequences for the way young children deal with aggressive drives. Among the 72 children of divorce, the absence of the father was especially disruptive for the boys between 1.5 years old and 1.5 and 5 years old. The very youngest typically had nightmares about monsters. Those 3 to 5 year olds were apt to be highly macho, hyper-aggressive, and preoccupied with ideas of stern male discipline." That's the end of the quote. Now, you might think that if a boy is raised in a family of women, that the boy is going to become, in the old slang, a sissy. He's going to take on the kind of stereotyped female, feminine attributes. But that apparently is not the case. If you think about it further, you realize that a boy in a setting of women knows that he's different from the women about him, the mothers, the sisters. How then does he find out what it is to be a boy? He looks at the images of the male that are presented in our mass media. And what are those images? Think about the images of maleness in TV, on magazines, in cartoon books. The male image, as I see it, is radically different kinds. On the one hand, you have the macho, hyper-aggressive, controlling, dominating male. On the other hand, you have the kind of bumbling, inept, incompetent man about the house. It's kind of the butt of jokes. Where do we see models, and where does the little boy see models about him of men who are both strong and compassionate? Men who can give direction and also sustain intimate, close, nurturing emotional relationships. Where are those models? Is it any wonder then that boys who have no men in their home to model that kind of maleness that I think we would want to see, that boys model themselves after the cultural images and go to the extremes of violent aggressivity? What does this mean for our congregation? What does this mean for our community? To reiterate, one of our primary goals as a community is to model a new way of being men and women together in community. We have to strive to be empowering for all of us, to be together in ways which nurture and include and sustain all of us, women and men alike. The next thing that this implies for us is that we've got to honor those of our men here who are already participating in our children's lives. Let's acclaim the men who are providing models for our children here already. And I asked Kathy to give me a list of the names of men that she knew of participating in our teaching ministry. And their names are printed on the inside of your program. And I hope you will pay attention to these men. and give them strokes for acting on the ideals that we hold. It's a wonderful and diverse group of men, and I'm pleased for our children that they can work and be with men like these. We may have missed some, and I hope you identify yourself as a man who's also helping in this way so that we can honor you too. I would like to see our community be more intentional about using our men in relationship with our boys and girls. I would like our community to be responsive to those single mother families who want to have the presence of caring, strong men interacting with their children. We as a community should be able to provide that service, if you will, to each other. In many traditional churches, this is done through a scout troop. And that's how men and young boys and youth get together. I think we could find a more creative way that expresses our values without the militarism and the homophobia of scouts. We could find a way to create those points of interaction. It could be through extended families. It could be through adaptations of parent support groups. We should find ways where single mother families can be sure that their children will form warm and sustaining relations with adult men who can model the kind of maleness that we would hold. The last thing that I would challenge men in this congregation to do, I know that many of us men are on an inner journey of healing ourselves because of the feeling that we did not receive the kind of fathering that we wanted. Fathers may have been absent from our lives. They may not have been emotionally available to us. They may have abandoned us. And we are seeking healing from that experience for ourselves. And I honor the men's groups within our congregation. The occasions where men are coming together to find wholeness and to find healing and to find those new models of being male in a supportive community. But I would go beyond honoring these groups, to urge the men who are in those groups to see that part of their inner healing is to serve our children, to serve our young people. And in the process of doing your healing and helping a child learn and be in relationship with an adult male, that healing will come back to your inner child. So many times, the path of healing is the path of service. And service brings the healing back into you. So I would urge us men here, as we proceed on our inner journey, to not lose sight of the outer service. And I would like to see our men's groups take on this as a mission for their group, to be of service to our children. We are in a time of enormous change, socially, culturally. These changes require that we be adaptable, that we be resilient, that we be patient, that we be willing to view the world in new ways, to have new understandings of ourselves. Change requires that we take what's valuable from the past and learn how to vision it anew for this time. So my prayer for us men this morning, my prayer is that we not be so overcome by our fear of the changes that we are going through that we lash out in anger. My prayer is that we use the fear that we may be experiencing because of these changes to refocus our energy, to develop new vision for how we can be and the new form of community that we want to create. May we model as best we can the ways of being male in today's world, and may we extend ourselves to our children, to all of our children, so that they can learn more life-giving ways of being male from us. May we dedicate ourselves to our children as the resource of our community. And may we never forget that if we are not the ones who shape our children's lives, there are others who will shape those lives, perhaps in ways that will not be constructive. And so it is our responsibility to shape our children's lives. Let us close by singing again our hopes and our commitment. There is more love. There is more hope and joy and peace, and we're going to keep on until we find it. Will you stand and sing? There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. Join hands and sing, there's more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on